Okay, so today I'm going to be discussing the Buronga Energy Park, a project by Renew Estate, and I have with me here Simon Corbell, Chief Advisor at Energy Estate. Simon has more than 2 decades of senior experience in public policy leadership, governance, and implementation. He was most recently the Victorian Renewable Energy Advocate, and from 2008 to 2016 was the Deputy Chief Minister and Minister for the Environment, Climate Change and Energy of the Australian Capital Territory. His advocacy for a strong climate change policy for Canberra saw the ACT receive national and international recognition as a best practice jurisdiction, and he is widely recognised as a leader in the areas of renewable energy and climate change mitigation. Simon, thanks for joining me. Do you mind just giving me a brief summary of the Buronga Energy Park?
Yeah, thanks very much, and great to speak to you today about this really exciting project. The Buronga Energy Park is a large high cycling battery project located close to the intersection of the Victorian, New South Wales and South Australian borders. This is a very large battery project. It's designed to deliver over 200 megawatts of storage, or 8 hours of storage, for the broader electricity grid. And the location of the project close to those three individual state jurisdictions, South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales, means that it's ideally placed to help support energy security and reliability in each of those state jurisdictions. The project really is part of a broader trend that we're now seeing across the national electricity market, where the increase in clean energy generation, both wind and solar, along with the projected retirement of coal-fired generation, means that we do need long duration energy storage to meet our energy needs for the future, whilst reducing our country's greenhouse gas emissions. This project is critically important as a part of that transition, and will deliver long-term benefits for the electricity grid, for the local community, and for assisting Australia as it transitions to a clean energy future.
Okay, thanks, Simon. What are some of the more specific benefits of this Buronga battery?
Well, critically, this project delivers energy security and reliability as our electricity grid transitions to a clean energy future. This is a very large battery project, 200 megawatt hours, 8 hours of long duration energy storage. And it is located in a physical location which delivers greatest benefits to potentially 3 individual state electricity markets. It is designed to provide energy supply at times of high demand, and in particular, it allows for time shifting. Time shifting is when you store cheap, abundant, clean energy during periods when there is high levels of wind or sunshine, and then you dispatch it at periods of high demand, which is normally in the evenings, or potentially even early in the mornings before sun and wind power is otherwise being generated. So this is a really important capacity in terms of long duration energy storage in the market. It's also about providing and utilising transmission infrastructure more efficiently, and it does this by ensuring that we're not just utilising the transmission and distribution electricity network when generation is occurring, we're also using it at times of high demand and sending electricity to places where it is needed when generation might not otherwise be occurring. Finally, it's a really important project in terms of economic development and employment opportunities in the Wentworth Shire Council. We know that delivering these types of projects means delivering the greatest amount of local benefits to the local community that will be hosting the project and seeing it as part of their community for the long term. So Renew Estate is very committed to ensuring that local jobs are secured, local contractors are engaged both during the construction as well as the operational phases of this project. And we're also very focused on ensuring that opportunities are available for local supply chain outcomes wherever that is possible, and ensuring that particular groups in the community, particularly those that perhaps have struggled to achieve stable employment, are given opportunities to be engaged in the project. So we see the development of the Buronga Energy Park as not just an energy solution, but also a community solution.
Thanks, Simon. So as I mentioned, you've got significant experience in the energy policy space in Australia. Do you mind sort of giving an overview of how a long duration storage battery at Buronga fits within current policy framework?
So this project is really well placed to respond to the long-term needs that we are now facing as our electricity grid transforms. The Australian Energy Market Operator, through its integrated system plan, has identified that we will need up to 50 gigawatts of new energy generation by 2040. And that includes 19 gigawatts of dispatchable energy. So energy that can be turned on as required to meet the needs of community and industry. So a long duration storage battery like the Buronga Energy Park project really does help meet that need. It also fits very well with the recent announcements of the New South Wales government through their electricity infrastructure roadmap, who are actively supporting the development of new wind, solar and other clean energy projects for energy generation, but they are also requiring that the market responds with up to 2 gigawatts of dispatchable energy storage projects. So this is a really critical part of meeting the New South Wales government's long-term plan to transition the electricity supply sector in New South Wales to a clean energy future, but also a reliable and cheaper electricity future. And it sits squarely with the objectives of the National Market Operator in terms of the long-term needs for the Australian economy as a whole. So this, I think, is an example of the scale, size, and capacity of projects we will need as the market transition in accordance with the plans put out by the market bodies and by state governments.
Okay, so that's a good summary of the current policy framework. What about future changes to the national electricity market? How are they expected to impact this project?
So at the moment in the electricity market, electricity is traded at 30-minute intervals. And what this means is that generation assets that can be wound up and deliver within quite a large time window are rewarded the most in the market. Moving forward, we're going to see electricity traded at 5-minute intervals. And what this means is that those technologies that can respond the quickest in terms of delivering electricity when it's needed will be the greatest beneficiaries. And a project like Buronga Energy Park is really well placed to respond to that because we know that batteries respond really quickly. They can respond into the electricity grid in a matter of seconds, not 5, 10 or 15 minutes. And that's in contrast to gas-fired power plants or coal-fired power plants, which are much slower in terms of how quickly they can be switched on to meet points of demand in the market. So we believe Buronga Energy Park really well placed to respond to the new markets that are being developed and the new market rules that will be implemented in the coming years. And this means that not only do we have technology that can respond quickly when it's needed to meet demand, but it also means that this technology can deliver electricity at a cheaper price. And it does that by capturing surplus wind and solar electricity when it's abundant and cheap and there is low levels of demand, and stores it and then sells that when it's required. But because the input cost is so low, because it's being captured at times of low demand and low value, it means that it can be sold at relatively cheaper prices compared to other forms of electricity in the market. So we think this is a win-win in terms of reliability and in terms of affordability for electricity moving forward. And it just shows another one of the benefits of large-scale energy storage that can be developed and delivered, such as Buronga Energy Park.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you, Simon. It's a very exciting project.
No worries. Look, great to talk to you about it today and looking forward to seeing the next steps with this really important project.
Thank you. Well, hi, Bill. Thanks for making the time today to discuss the Buronga battery with me. Do you want to just start by introducing ESS as a company and sort of giving an overview of the iron flow battery?
Certainly, I'd be happy to, Matt. So ESS is located in Portland, Oregon, the west coast of the US. We started the company back in 2011, where we were focused on developing an iron flow battery. We had a lot of support out of the Department of Energy in the US, and we produced the first commercial system in 2014. And so we've been making a number of systems for behind the meter, primarily applications here in the US. But now this year we are starting to ship systems to Australia, to South America, Europe, and a number of locations throughout the US. And probably more pertinent to what we're talking about is we've recently designed an energy center application, which is more a utility scale, taking the same components we put in the containerized systems and making it more cost effectively and more flexible for utility scale type applications. Today, we're in a large facility, manufacturing facility here in Portland, about 160,000 square feet, about 125 employees today, and we're increasing that quickly this year as we start to ramp up manufacturing.
Cool. Do you want to just talk a bit about the market need that your product addresses? You know, the growing need for long duration storage with renewables coming online?
Absolutely. So obviously the dominant technology in the market today is lithium ion, and that being a very good energy storage technology for power type applications where you need a good strong burst of power for a short period of time. And so the typical lithium ion stationary application would be a 2 or 4 hour type application with a relatively few cycles per year is ideally, because it will degrade, lithium ion degrades with cycles and with time. And the only way they can get longer duration is by adding more cells. So you just increase the CapEx about the same amount every time you add more duration. A flow battery is different in that the initial capital procurement is for the power modules, which is the power portion of the battery. But in adding duration, all you really have to do is add more iron and salt water in our case, which is a very inexpensive part of the battery. So where we're on a par at probably 4 to 6 hours on a cost basis, CapEx basis with lithium ion, when you extend that out to 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, all we're really doing is adding more electrolyte, and that brings the cost per kWh down dramatically. And so the other aspect of a flow battery that makes it ideal for long life projects and long duration is we don't care how many times we cycle every day. There's no degradation in the either the power or the capacity, energy capacity of the battery. And so we're designed to be used quite heavily for a 25-year period. So those projects where you've got multiple use cases, or you just are doing a bulk shifting every day of energy, long duration energy, it's ideal for a flow battery. Those applications that are short duration, like frequency response, frequency reg, that's more of a lithium ion application. But those are also applications that you could be doing with a flow battery if you already bought it for long duration applications as well.
So that's how it compares to lithium ion. What about other long duration storages such as pumped hydro or compressed air? Presumably it's more flexible in its location.
More flexible in its location, certainly, than pumped hydro. You have very specific things. Compressed air can be a little more flexible in the siting of it, but there's a lot of permitting that would have to take place and environmental studies to put those types of technologies in place. Being a very benign chemistry, iron salt water, we don't have any permitting issues. We don't have any environmental concerns. It can be broken up into, as I said, most of what we've done to date is containerized. So you could place containers distributed throughout an area, or this new energy center, it's basically a battery in a building. You could build up a large building, 1 acre or so, and we're basically 6 megawatts and about 72 megawatt hours per acre is the density that we would have on a fully deployed system.
Right. Do you want to talk a bit more? You mentioned being based in Oregon. Do you want to talk a bit more about the pipeline you have under development and any existing projects?
Absolutely. So in the US, where we've done a lot of projects, we're starting to do some utility projects. We have a project down in San Diego that is basically an off-grid, or it's on-grid, but it's designed to be there when they need to shut down the grid for wildfire mitigation. And they have a program that's called Public Service Power Shutdown, where if the winds get strong in a dry condition, they will shut down certain segments of the grid. And this particular project that we're involved with is with solar, and we're connected to a small community in eastern San Diego County, where in those kind of situations, the utility shuts down the grid, they turn to the microgrid to power that community. And we can go on for days. There's enough solar at the site to power the grid or power that circuit during the day and recharge us. And then during the night, we can provide the power for that small community. That's an application we're involved in right now. We're bidding on a lot of very large applications, 20 to 100 megawatt utility scale type applications in the US. In Australia, we have a lot of activity going on with both utility scale indicative bids and off-grid, Western Australia, off-grid type communities or mining applications where it's really a solar and storage type alternative to diesel or natural gas infrastructure. So, and then beyond Australia and the US, there's an awful lot of opportunity in South America and Europe and Africa that that's in our pipeline.
Right. So given the fairly large presence in Australia that could eventuate over the coming years, do you see setting up a production facility here as something?
Yeah, and that's one of the unique features of the iron flow battery is it's very inexpensive to set up manufacturing operations. At the assembly level, the system assembly level, it's very straightforward. Even at the battery power module level, we're this year putting in place an automated manufacturing site, but it's designed to be replicated in regional areas for just a few $1 million to get a start. And so our strategy is to set up regional manufacturing, both at the power module level and at the assembly level for those markets that have a significant amount of volume. So we're actively looking at ways to do that in the next couple of years in Australia. We're also looking in South Africa and down in South America, possibly even in Europe in the next couple of years. So it lends itself to regional manufacturing with partners, and we're actively looking at that in Australia.
Right, exciting times. Well, that pretty much covers everything. Thanks, Bill. So thanks a lot for your time.
You bet, Matt. Appreciate it.
Cheers.